welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're jumping into something pretty impactful, I think, the core ideas from Admiral William H. McRaven. You know, the stuff from his Navy SEAL days that ended up in that huge book, Make Your Bed. Yeah, so if you're looking for some really battle-tested ways to think about leadership, getting through tough times, basically how tiny daily actions can lead to, well, pretty big things, this is for you. We've got the key sources, and we're going to unpack those 10 main lessons.
And it's definitely got credibility behind it. I mean, McRaven, he wasn't just, writing theories. He's a retired U.S. Navy admiral, former head of U.S. Special Operations Command, USOCOM, that famous commencement speech he gave back in 2014 at the University of Texas. That's really where this all started, and it grew into this really straightforward handbook. And maybe before we get into the specifics, it's worth framing it around the ultimate, well, the thing you're trying to avoid. The 10th lesson, really. Don't ever, ever ring the bell.
Right, the bell in SEAL training.
Exactly. Ringing that bell means you quit. Instantly. Game over. So fundamentally, all these 10 steps, they're designed to build the inner strength, the habits, the perspective, so you never get to that point. So you never ring that bell.
Okay, I like that framing. So instead of just, listing them 1 to 10, maybe we can group them. How about we look at them as, say, 3 pillars? Maybe something like foundational habits, then mastering adversity, and finally, courage and persistence.
That makes a lot of sense. You really do need those basics down, those small daily wins, before you can realistically face the bigger storms, right?
Exactly. So pillar 1, foundational discipline and support. This is where it all begins. And lesson 1, well, it's the title, isn't it? Make your bed. It sounds almost too simple, but the idea is about kicking off the day with a win, a completed task. So McRaven argues it gives you this small hit of pride, and that makes you more likely to tackle the next thing and the next.
Yeah, and the psychology of it is interesting. It's less about, having a neat room and more about creating that forward momentum inside your head. It's like if you can master the small thing, it builds a little bit of self-belief. And like he says, even if the rest of your day completely falls apart, you come back to something finished, something you controlled.
Right. And then, boom, straight away, lesson 2 flips it. Once you've got that personal discipline starting,
Right.
You can't do it alone. Find someone to help you paddle.
Mm-hmm. It hits home that even the most elite people need help. They need a team. And crucially, you have to actually ask for that help. So for you listening, the real action here is maybe a bit of vulnerability. Can you actually name one person, just one, to maybe keep you honest about a goal this month? Turn that solo grind into something, shared.
Then lesson 3 shifts again, this time to values. Measure a person by the size of their heart, not by the size of their flippers. So it's saying look past the surface stuff, the status, the looks, maybe even the obvious successes. Focus on the internal qualities. Courage, kindness, determination. That's your real measure.
And that ties right back into teamwork, doesn't it? When things get truly difficult, you're not looking at someone's resume, you're looking for their heart, their grit.
Okay, solid foundation. But what happens when life just punches you in the gut? When those small wins get wiped out by bad luck or failure? That brings us to pillar 2, mastering adversity and resilience. And lesson 4 uses this pretty intense SEAL training metaphor. Get over being a sugar cookie, accept life's unfairness, and be resilient.
Right, the sugar cookie. That's when a trainee messes up. And the punishment is rolling around in the wet sand until you're just completely caked in it. It's miserable. It often feels totally unfair. But the point is, life will throw unfair stuff at you, things that aren't your fault. And wasting energy being angry or resentful about it, that's energy you could be using to, well, get clean and move forward.
Okay, but hang on. Doesn't that risk sounding a bit like, just suck it up? Sometimes unfairness is systemic, right? It's not just bad luck you can brush off.
That's a really important distinction. And I don't think the lesson is saying ignore big structural problems. It's more about your immediate response, your personal agency in that moment. If you're the one covered in sand, you can't instantly fix the entire training system, maybe. But you can choose whether to stay there complaining or to start getting the sand off and figure out the next step. It's about preventing that mental paralysis, focusing on what you can control right now.
Gotcha. So control the immediate response. Okay. Building on that toughness, lesson 5 is, don't be afraid of the circus. Embrace the hard training that makes you strong. The circus being that extra grueling workout you get slapped with when you fail something. It's basically punishment designed to make you stronger. So the lesson is, don't shy away from hard things. Seek them out, almost.
Yeah, because comfort can make you weak, physically and mentally. In SEAL training, avoiding the hard stuff directly leads to failure. So the principle is you need that voluntary friction to grow. For, everyday life, maybe it's tackling the part of a project you dread first, or doing that extra rep at the gym. It's consciously choosing the path of resistance sometimes, because that's what builds the muscle.
And that leads into lesson 6, which is about using that strength. Slide down the obstacle head first. Take calculated risks.
Boldness when you're blocked.
Now, I have to push back a bit here, too. A SEAL's calculated risk might involve, well, life and death stakes. How does that translate safely to, say, an office environment? Isn't there a danger of encouraging recklessness?
That's fair. The stakes are obviously different. But McRaven's point, I think, is more about the cost of inaction. When you're truly stuck, sometimes hesitating guarantees failure. So a calculated risk in a civilian context isn't about being reckless. It's about making a decisive move after you've done the assessment. When the opportunity is there, you commit fully and quickly instead of just, dithering.
Okay, so decisiveness after assessment, not just jumping blindly. What's the action step then?
Maybe just identify one small, slightly risky step towards a goal this week, something you've been putting off maybe just because it feels a bit uncomfortable or you worry about looking silly, not, actual danger.
All right, that makes sense. Let's move to the third pillar, courage, leadership, and persistence. These feel like the principles that hold everything together, especially when things get really tough. Lesson 7 is about standing firm. Don't back down from the shark, stand up to bullies in fear. Basically, confront threats.
Yeah, this is huge for anyone in a leadership role or even just navigating life. If you let people cross your boundaries or let bullies operate unchecked, it erodes everything: trust, morale. The practical application here might be practicing small acts of boundary setting, like a calm but firm no, or having that slightly awkward corrective chat when needed. You have to be willing to defend your values or your team.
Okay, and then lesson 8 really tests that inner strength. Be your best in the darkest moments. Keep composure under pressure.
This is where true character shows, right? Not when things are easy, but when everything's hitting the fan, stress is high, maybe you don't have all the answers. That's when leadership matters most.
And you can't just suddenly decide to be calm in a crisis, can you? You need to have practiced.
Exactly. Preparation is key. It means having a pre-planned routine. Maybe it's just a few deep breaths. Maybe it's running through a quick mental checklist you've rehearsed. Something simple that anchors you when chaos hits.
Then lesson 9, this one always gets me. Start singing when you are up to your neck in mud. Keep hope and lift others. Even when you're struggling yourself, your attitude impacts everyone.
It's about the power of morale and the leader's responsibility for it.
But is there a line? Like, when does singing in the mud become just fake positivity? When should you actually signal that, hey, we're really in trouble and need external help, instead of just trying to jolly everyone along?
That's a great point, and it comes back to judgment and moral courage again. If the situation is genuinely beyond the team's capacity, yeah, you call for help, you don't pretend. But McRaven's talking about those moments of exhaustion, of mental drain, where the team can still push through, but despair is setting in. Despair is like a virus. The leader's job then is to be the source of energy, of hope, of perspective, even if they're feeling the mud too.
So the action is outward focused.
Yeah, maybe just send an encouraging note to someone you know is having a tough time this week. Be that source of lift for someone else.
Okay. And that brings us to the big one, the anchor. Lesson 10. Don't ever, ever ring the bell. Never quit.
The ultimate message, that bell in the SEAL training compound. It's always there. Tempting. Offering an easy way out. But ringing it means it's over. All possibilities gone.
So persistence isn't just stubbornness. It's about refusing to close the door on future success.
Exactly. It's a refusal to accept finality. So when you feel that urge, maybe on a project, a health goal, whatever the advice is practical, stop. List 3 good reasons to keep going, and then identify just one small next action you can take right now. It breaks that feeling of being overwhelmed.
Wow. Okay, so we've unpacked these 10 lessons, grouped them. What's the big picture takeaway for you, the listener? It feels like these intense military-forged ideas actually build into some pretty universal themes.
Yeah, if you connect the dots, 4 things really stand out. First, discipline. Those small daily habits, they compound massively. Second, resilience. Toughness isn't just something you have or don't have. You can train it by deliberately facing hard things. Third, teamwork and leadership. Can't do significant things alone. And real leadership involves service and taking responsibility and knowing when to ask for help. And fourth, hope and moral courage, keeping perspective, staying positive even when it's hard, and actively lifting others up. that multiplies everyone's effectiveness.
Now, we did touch on critiques earlier. It's worth just restating that, the heavy reliance on military metaphors means argued oversimplifies things for civilian life. Like, making your bed is great,
Yeah.
but it won't fix deep systemic issues in a company, right?
Absolutely, and that's a fair critique. This isn't necessarily a handbook for organizational change management. It's really focused on personal discipline, personal resilience, building your foundation. But its power, I think, comes from where it comes from. These aren't abstract theories. They're principles tested under the most extreme pressure imaginable. They're kind of the baseline requirements for functioning when everything is on the line. That makes them incredibly digestible and actionable, especially for, say, students, people early in their careers, or just anyone feeling stuck and needing that practical push.
Okay, so we want to give you something concrete to walk away with. We've put together a kind of 7-day resilience builder challenge based directly on these lessons. Ready? Day 1. Nail the foundation. Make your bed. Seriously. And then take just 5 minutes to notice how that small completion feels.
Day 2. Ask for help. Identify that one person and ask them to be your accountability partner on one specific goal. Just one.
Day 3. Embrace the circus. Pick one uncomfortable, productive task you've been avoiding and just do it. Lean into the friction.
Day 4. Calculated risk. Take one small, assessed risk towards a goal. Slide down headfirst on something minor you've been hesitant about.
Day 5. Face the sharks. Practice setting a boundary. Stand up to something minor you've perhaps let slide. Maybe a small no or a quick corrective comment.
Day 6. Darkest moments prep. When you hit a stressful moment today, consciously use a simple calming technique, deep breath, mental checklist, practice composure.
And day 7. Lift others and commit. Encourage someone, maybe publicly, and then make a conscious decision. Pick one important thing you're working on and commit to yourself. I will not ring the bell on this.
It's a practical way to start building these muscles because ultimately the core message is simple but profound. The little things you do consistently, they matter way more than you think. They're the bedrock.
So here's a final thought to chew on. If these principles, forged in arguably the toughest training on Earth, really boil down to things like persistence, helping others, staying composed, and starting small, what does that tell us about what really matters for success, even when we're not in a crisis?
Maybe think about one major goal you have right now, maybe one you're dreading a bit, and ask yourself honestly, is the main thing holding me back just discomfort? If it is, then McRaven's advice is clear. You know the next step. Don't ring the bell. Go find that next step.